Waste of money on a daughter, Dad sneered, refusing my tuition. 9 years later, he knelt in my office. Your brother's dying without treatment. I glanced at my pharmaceutical empire and said, the clinical trial closes enrollment at 5 o'clock. He can apply through the standard channels like everyone else. I didn't look up from the molecular structure rotating on my screen. We were so close to cracking the protein fold that would make our new immunotherapy drug work. After 9 years of clawing my way up from nothing, I wasn't about to let their drama derail this breakthrough. Priya, my father's voice cracked, using my name for the first time in years. Please. He's your brother. And I was your daughter. That didn't seem to matter when I needed $15,000 for MIT. Through the glass walls of my office, I could see my entire research team working frantically on what could be the biggest breakthrough in cancer treatment in decades. Young scientists, half of them women, none of them told their dreams were worthless because of their gender. My mother stood behind him, wringing her hands. She looked older, grayer, diminished. The same woman who'd once stood tall while telling me that educating girls was like watering someone else's garden. How much? I asked finally, turning to face them. For the treatment. How much do you need? 800,000, my mother whispered. The experimental therapy in Switzerland. It's his only hope. I almost laughed. The irony was exquisite. The girl whose education wasn't worth 15,000 now ran a pharmaceutical company worth billions. The son they'd invested everything in needed nearly $1 million to survive. 800,000, I repeated. For Arjun. The golden child. The one whose engineering degree you paid for without question. The one whose 3 failed startups you funded. The one whose MBA you celebrated while I served you tea during my study breaks. We were traditional, my father said weakly. You thought women were temporary investments. That I'd get married, become someone else's responsibility, make your investment worthless. While Arjun, he'd carry the family name, build the family fortune, take care of you in old age. We were wrong, he admitted. Were you? Or are you only here because the son you bet everything on developed a rare bone cancer at 31, and the daughter you discarded owns one of the fastest-growing pharmaceutical companies in the world? Silence. Let me take you back 9 years. I was 18, fresh out of high school with perfect grades and an acceptance letter from MIT. The scholarship covered tuition, but I needed money for housing, books, living expenses. $15,000. That's all. MIT. My father had laughed when I showed him the letter. Why would we waste money sending a girl to MIT? You'll study locally, get a simple degree. Something to keep you busy until marriage. But Dad, I got in. Do you know how hard? Your brother starts engineering school next year, he'd interrupted. We need to save for his education. For his future. What about my future? Your future is marriage. A good husband. Children. Not this foolishness about becoming a scientist. My mother had nodded along. Be practical, Priya. Girls don't need such education. Look at me, married at 19, raised a family. That's women's purpose. It's 2015, not 1950. I'd protested. In this house, we maintain our values, my father had said firmly. If you want to study so badly, go to the local community college. Study teaching or nursing. Respectable professions for women. I want to study biochemistry. I want to develop medicines. Save lives. Arjun will save lives, my mother had said proudly. He'll be a great engineer. Build bridges, buildings. Real things. Not these fantasies you have. So you'll pay for his degree but not mine? His degree is an investment. Yours is an expense. There's a difference. I'd packed that night. Took my acceptance letter, my $43 in savings, and the gold bangles my grandmother had left me. The ones meant for my wedding. I sold them at a pawn shop for $2,000 and bought a one-way bus ticket to Boston. Where will you live? My best friend Mira had asked, helping me pack. I'll figure it out. Your parents will never forgive this. Then we're even. I'll never forgive them either. MIT was brutal without support. I worked 4 jobs: lab assistant, tutor, coffee shop, overnight library monitor. I lived on rice and stolen cafeteria packets of peanut butter. I studied on 3 hours of sleep, wore the same 3 outfits for 4 years, walked everywhere to save subway fare. My professors noticed my dedication. Dr. Sarah Chun became my mentor, guiding me toward pharmaceutical research. You have a gift, she'd told me junior year. Your understanding of molecular interactions is intuitive. I have to be good, I'd replied. I can't afford to be average. Because of the scholarships? Because I have no safety net. No family to catch me if I fall. She'd hired me for her research team, giving me work that paid better and aligned with my studies. By senior year, I was co-author on 3 papers about targeted cancer therapies. When she started her own pharmaceutical company, she brought me along. I can't pay much, she'd warned. You're giving me equity and experience. That's worth more than money. It was. When Chun Pharma sold to a larger corporation 3 years later, my 2% stake was worth $4 million. I used it to start my own company, focusing on rare disease treatments that big pharma ignored. Not profitable enough for them, but life-changing for patients. My brother, meanwhile, had graduated with his funded engineering degree and promptly failed. His first startup, a social media app for farmers, burned through family savings. His second, an e-commerce platform that already existed in better forms, lasted 6 months. His third, I'd stopped keeping track. He's finding himself. My mother had defended during one of our rare phone calls. Men need time to establish their careers. I established mine while sleeping in the lab, I'd reminded her. That's different. You had to struggle. Arjun has support. Support. The thing that made him soft while its absence made me steel. Now they sat in my office, in the company I'd built from nothing, begging for the kind of money they'd refused to invest in my education. The treatment, my mother said desperately. It's experimental. Only available in Switzerland. The doctors say. I know what the doctors say. I developed the base compound they're using. Their eyes widened. That's your drug? The early version. We couldn't get FDA approval for bone cancer applications. Too rare, too expensive to test properly. The Swiss have different regulations. Then you can help. You can make them treat him. I can't. I sold that patent 2 years ago to fund our current research. The Swiss company owns it now. But the money, $800,000. I pulled up my bank app, showing them a balance that made their eyes bulge. I could write that check right now. Wouldn't even feel it. Then please. Tell me, I interrupted. When Arjun got into engineering school, how much did you spend? Total. All 4 years. My father shifted uncomfortably. Maybe 60,000? Plus living expenses. So let's say 100,000 total. For the child who mattered. While the child who didn't matter got nothing. We've apologized. No. You've asked for money. That's not an apology. I stood, walking to the window. Below, Boston sprawled in all its innovative glory. Somewhere down there was the coffee shop where I'd worked nights, the lab where I'd slept under my desk, the tiny apartment I'd shared with 6 other students. Do you know what happened last month? I asked. We got FDA approval for our pediatric leukemia drug. The one I've been working on since graduate school. It'll save thousands of children. Literally thousands. That's wonderful, my mother said weakly. It almost didn't happen. 3 times we nearly ran out of funding. 3 times I thought about calling you, asking for help. Just a little. Just enough to keep going. We would have. Would you? Would you have invested in your daughter's foolish dreams? Or would you have told me to be practical, get married, stop wasting time on fantasies? Silence. That drug exists because I learned to survive without you. Because every door you closed forced me to build my own building. Because your rejection taught me that the only person who'd ever truly invest in me was me. So you won't help your brother? My father asked, his voice hollow. I turned back to them. I'll offer him exactly what you offered me. Nothing for free. But if he wants to work for it, truly work, there might be a way. What do you mean? We're running a clinical trial for bone cancer treatment. It's brutal, painful, experimental. Participants need to document everything, submit to constant testing, live near our facility for a year. It's free for those who qualify and commit completely. He'll do it, my mother said instantly. Will he? Because it means giving up everything else. No comfort, no privacy, no guarantee of success. Just like what I faced at 18. But with hope, my father said quietly. You're offering hope. I'm offering a chance. The same chance I had to make for myself. I pressed my intercom. Sanvi, please bring the trial enrollment forms. The ones that close at 5 o'clock today. But it's already 3:30, my mother protested. Then you'd better hurry. The review board doesn't make exceptions. Not even for family. Especially not for family. My assistant brought the forms, thick packets of medical history, commitment agreements, liability waivers. The kind of paperwork that overwhelmed healthy people, let alone someone fighting cancer. Fill these out completely. Any lies, any omissions, and he's disqualified. The selection committee meets Monday. If he's accepted, he reports within 48 hours. No exceptions, no delays, no special treatment. This is so much. Yes, it is. Welcome to what meritocracy actually looks like, where what matters isn't your gender or family name, but your willingness to do whatever it takes. They gathered the papers with shaking hands. As they reached the door, my father turned back. The other offer. The money. If the trial doesn't accept him, then he's in the same position I was. Figure it out or don't. But the bank of family obligation is closed. You're our daughter. Now I'm your daughter? When you need something. Where was that recognition when I was sleeping in a 24-hour Dunkin' Donuts because I couldn't afford rent? When I was mixing chemicals with frostbitten fingers because I couldn't afford winter gloves? When I won the Innovator Under 25 award and had no one to call? My mother was crying now. We didn't know. You didn't want to know. It was easier to believe I'd failed than to admit you were wrong. Easier to pour money into our June's failures than acknowledge my successes. He's dying, she whispered. So was I. Just slower. Dying of exhaustion, malnutrition, isolation. The only difference is my death would have been invisible. His is harder to ignore. They left with the forms, racing against time and traffic. I returned to my molecular structure, to the work that had saved me when family wouldn't. 3 days later, Sambi knocked. The trial committee approved a last-minute candidate. Arjun Patel. He barely qualified, but his desperation score was off the charts. Good. Desperation is clarifying. It shows what really matters. Should I note the family connection in his file? No. He's just another patient fighting for his life. He'll get exactly what every other participant gets. No more, no less. The trial would be hell. I knew because I'd designed it to be thorough, leaving no room for half measures. Arjun would either commit completely or wash out. Just like I'd had to commit completely to survive. A year later, I stood before a conference room full of investors, presenting our trial results. 60% response rate. 40% full remission. Numbers that would change the landscape of bone cancer treatment. One patient asked me to read this. I said, pulling out a letter. It was from Arjun. Not asking for special treatment or family favors, but thanking me for the chance to fight. He was in the 40%. Full remission. The golden child who'd never had to struggle finally understanding what it meant to earn your survival. But more importantly, the trial had succeeded. The drug would go to market. Thousands would live because a girl whose education was deemed worthless had refused to accept that valuation. After the presentation, I found my parents in the lobby. They looked different. Humbled. Aged by the year of watching their son fight for every breath. He's going back to school, my mother said quietly. Starting over. Biochemistry like you. He wants to understand what saved him. Good for him. We sold the house, my father added, to pay for his expenses during the trial. We live in a small apartment now. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. It taught us something. The value of investment. The cost of bias. The price of betting on the wrong horse. You didn't bet on the wrong horse. You just refused to see that you had two horses in the race. Yes, he agreed. We see that now. Do you? Or do you see it because the horse you backed needed the one you abandoned? Both, my mother admitted. We see you now because we need you. But also, we just see you. The daughter we missed. The brilliance we dismissed. The future we nearly destroyed. Nearly, I repeated. But not quite. I left them there and returned to my lab. There was work to do. More drugs to develop. More lives to save. More young women to mentor who'd been told their dreams didn't matter. My parents had said girls don't need education. That investing in daughters was wasting money on someone else's future garden. They'd been right about one thing. I hadn't stayed in their garden. I'd built my own pharmaceutical empire instead. And when they came begging for my fortune to save my brother, I'd given him something better than money. I'd given him the chance to earn his survival, just like I'd earned mine. The only difference? He'd had to nearly die to receive what I'd begged for at 18. The opportunity to prove that potential has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with the willingness to transform rejection into rocket fuel. $800,000 could have bought his treatment in Switzerland. But the chance to participate in a trial that emerged from my worthless education? That was priceless. And somehow, I think even my parents finally understood the difference. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.